What are some really subtle signs that a person is actually stupid? The dumbest people are usually those who will never admit they don't know something. Yeah, the people that go I know whenever you're telling them something. 5 minutes later you find out in fact they don't know. They get upset when you do something right. It's quasi common in my area for folks to get offended if you use a word they've never heard or don't understand. The assumption is that if you don't understand the word, that the person using it is talking down to you and using flowery language to do so. So ducking weird. Lack of self-awareness. I had an internship with a woman like this. Unfortunately I was also roomed with her. Talking to her was awful. If you tried to explain anything to her after she asked, she'd genuinely get this look on her face where you could tell that there wasn't a whole lot going on inside her head. Her eyes would just kind of glaze over and she'd stare at you with her mouth hanging open. I've never actually met someone before who perfectly expressed the term slack-jawed. That was if you talked to her. Most people tried not to. People generally tried to avoid her. I once saw a police officer run when he saw her because he didn't want to get trapped by her again. She'd talk constantly, frequently about grossly inappropriate subjects because she didn't understand boundaries. If someone was slammed by work, she'd still be trying to talk to them. She literally could not understand why people avoided her, or that they were avoiding her, or that if someone is trying to deal with 50 other people, they can't talk to her right now about how her son shoplifted from Walmart 2 months before. The best way to tell if someone is stupid is if they consistently don't learn from mistakes. They don't seem to comprehend what they did cause the problem, even after being told numerous times. I work with someone who makes repeated mistakes. I explain where he went wrong. I not only explain the step-by-step instruction of the task, but the reasoning behind each phase, so remembering how to do it becomes less cumbersome. I can tell by the way he literally can't explain the most basic things about the task to our new guy that he just doesn't get any of it. Every time this particular task needs to be done, he pulls out the instruction and does it line by line. After years he still makes mistakes because he doesn't understand what he's doing. Just that he's on step 24A and it no longer works. I'm junior to him, but I run our section. The guy I trained eclipsed him by 3 months in. His replacement eclipsed him by 3 months in. He's more useless than an untrained new guy. But here's the kicker. He's the sweetest guy ever. No one dislikes him. Hell, even though he makes my job harder, I really like the guy. He should have been fired over a decade ago. But no one wants to pull the trigger. I'm right because I'm older. That would mean that the oldest person in a room is always right. That is terrifying. I worked in a nursing home in which the oldest lady had a cane she would hit you with if you got in her way. Don't mind me. I'm just checking the comments here to see if I'm dumb. The most common answer is that dumb people don't realize they're dumb. The fact that you're willing to question yourself proves you aren't. Which, honestly, not actually true. I've known at least one person who was like, I'm dense as a rock. And you know what? They were. Zero curiosity. He wants to make art, but he can't because he's a fundamentally incurious person who isn't much interested in what other people think or feel, and all of his ideas boil down to what if Batman met Mario. Folding Ideas review of the Nostalgia Critics parody of The Wall link. Fundamentally incurious is the most brutal description of a person's intelligence I've ever heard. The ability to ignore all facts and still claim they are right. One time in college a classmate wanted me to review a paper she was writing. It had some pretty shocking statistics in it, but no sources or indication where the numbers came from. So I asked about it and recommended she added citations. She said, "Oh, no, it's not like that. I'm saying it feels like 90%. A stupid person makes the same mistake over and over again and cannot learn anything. This above all else. No matter how dumb of a mistake or action was performed, if they can learn, I'd still say that they ain't stupid. But their inability to learn is inevitably going to make that person stupid as duck. A kid won't be a dumbass forever. For an example, I'd argue that there are two kind of dumb people. The ones who can't learn. The ones who can learn. but aren't willing to. So basically, they stay ignorant on purpose. Stupid people are rarely curious about anything. I always feel the most intelligent people I've ever met have ridiculously broad knowledge. Like, sure, you can meet someone who knows several subjects inside out, but I always feel a difference between that and people who you could talk to about nearly anything. It's clear they are curious by nature and taking little bits of everything in. Definitely seems like a common trait. My coworker thinks I'm really smart. Honestly, I doubt I'm much smarter than she is. I just look up pretty much everything I don't have an answer to instead of shrugging and asking a higher up. I'm always reading new books and exploring new ideas. I'm not smarter, but my curiosity has made me more knowledgeable, and that's something anyone can achieve with time. Personally, I believe a person is stupid when they refuse to learn and willingly choose to stay ignorant. I'm not talking about people that are unable to learn. I'm talking about people that are able to learn, yet they choose not to. My ex's grandmother refused to learn how to type. Her vision was fine. Her fingers were fine. She had email and a computer, but she refused to touch a keyboard. If she wanted to send an email, she would wait until one of her children visited her and then have them type it out for her. Edit, because I keep getting the same comments. It wasn't a class thing. She had worked outside the home for most of her life. It wasn't a loneliness thing. She would never ask her kids to come over and help. She would wait, sometimes weeks, until someone visited her and then ask them to type. Weirdly, it wasn't even a tech thing. She would use the mouse just fine and play solitaire or use programs that didn't require any typing. She had stubbornness issues. A lot of that family did. Dealing with someone like that right now. Best example is I gave them an itemized list of questions I needed answered. They only sent back the first item on the list and still ducked it up. I work in automotive and was at a government summit once showcasing our cars. Had a lady at a pretty influential position who asked me the difference between a rear-wheel drive and a 4WD old car. After I was done explaining, she asked me what's the point of having front wheels on a rear-wheel drive car. My brain had to reboot to comprehend that question. For a second I was going to be sympathetic to someone who didn't understand 4WD versus sword, but damn, that's some next level in comprehension. Starting to self-identify, reading through all the comments, to be self-aware, learn of your past mistakes, and to better yourself. That's the beginning of a bright future. Being ready to learn everywhere and from everything. After enough time you will realize how good that really is. Overconfident in a subject that they clearly know nothing of, and try to tell you you're wrong after facts have been presented. Attorney here. I'm not the smartest person in the room most of the time, and that's fine. But I did extensively study the Constitution in law school and after, and I constantly watch people misstate what parts of it mean on social media, and they are absolutely convinced that they're right and argue with people with more expertise in the area. And it happens with all professions, and it's always infuriating. Fellow frustrated attorney here. Here's an old Onion article link that will hopefully make you laugh instead of cry. Become an expert in a field of your choice and start to realize that way too many people in your field are no experts at all. Looking at you. Veteran at admins in Germany. Edit, in case of confusion, veteran in the sense of being in the industry for centuries, not military thingy. Honestly, as I get older, I realize more and more that some of those subtle signs really just reflect a lack of people skills or a lack of self-awareness. Sometimes a lack of people skills or a lack of self-awareness could be related to asynchronous development issues, or even mental illness. So sometimes, I try not to jump to the conclusion that someone could be stupid. That being said, I would say that a lot of stupid people, at least the ones who I've met, feel a compulsive need to put others down in the most vicious way possible. Those same people also can't catch smoke when people respond back. A perfect example would be an ex-girlfriend of mine who would have no problem body shaming any other woman in the room, but would go ballistic whenever someone teased her about gaining 1 kilogram. They bring up their IQ score from an online test they took when we were 13. A buddy of mine came to school filled with excitement and couldn't wait to tell us about the amazing results he got from an IQ test. Okay, fine. What did you score? 98, almost full marks. Not being able to admit they were wrong. Though sometimes this is a sign of immaturity. There's a strong correlation with stupidity. I'd say it goes even beyond admitting. Smart people might also have trouble admitting a mistake to other people due to pride. But stupid people won't even consider the possibility that this sort of thing might happen. Not being able to spell is normal. Lots of people are dyslexic. Not knowing you can't spell. On the other hand, see that door marked pirate? You think a pirate lives in there. I see a door marked private. They talk about how smart they are. The more you know. The more you know you don't know. Someone might think they know all the stars that exist according to the ones they can see. But if they further educate themselves in astronomy, they will know just how much they don't know. Hawking pyramid schemes on their social media. I had a friend from high school ask if she could come to my house. Okay. She shows up. And she has this tablet. She asks me if I need life insurance. I said, well, I have cancer currently, so most of them won't sell to me. But she kept trying until she got to the cancer question, and then the tablet wouldn't go any further. That was an awkward 10 minutes until she decided to leave. I had to laugh after she backed out of my driveway. Anytime someone is trying to sell you insurance, just tell them you are currently dying of cancer. Someone I love took an online IQ test. They proudly shared their score of 300. Edit: yes. IQ tests, especially unofficial ones, are dumb, biased, and measure a very limited scope of intelligence. I don't know how subtle this really is, but insisting that something isn't real just because they personally haven't experienced it. Case in point, an acquaintance who was convinced that catcalling wasn't as prevalent as people made it seem. Because, well, I've barely ever seen it happen. Like, yeah, bro, you're 6'3", bearded, and built like a defensive lineman. Of course people aren't gonna be catcalling many women you're walking with. Jesus. I know some people with this mindset to catcalling as well. Like, bruh, we've lived in the suburbs most of our lives. We don't walk anywhere. We drive. And you wonder why we've never seen catcalling. People who brag about how smart they are. Usually they are the dumbest of the dumb. Exactly. As a boss, I honestly love and respect the guys who just start working and admit to me they don't know much or everything and want to learn as much as possible. The ones that come in that know everything never last and never take our advice. Our best worker that has been climbing the ranks was humble, admitted he had much to learn, and listened to all the veterans and followed their lead. Getting angry at novel situations or ideas instead of responding with curiosity. Never saying they don't have enough information to make a judgment. Misjudge the outcomes of their actions. For example, being surprised that they were fired after being a no-call no-show at their work. They think smart people are personally attacking them or showing off because they feel insecure around smart people. If something goes wrong, it has to be someone's fault, and it's not them. Black and white thinking. They never see nuance in situations. Answers to complex situations are aggressive and too simplistic. They are unable to explain their opinions. They can't show their work of how they came to that conclusion. Their worldview contradicts itself. Their opinions don't match up when a uniform application of the same principles is applied to their multiple beliefs. Not remembering when they held a different belief. Literally actually forgetting that they held a different position. Smart people recall times they had inferior beliefs, and they acutely remember the process of evolving to a better opinion. Smart people don't necessarily admit to being wrong outwardly all of the time, but they admit it to themselves. Not being aware that they are not good at something. Over-evaluating their proficiency. Also, when they are proficient, they literally do not remember when they were not, and see people still learning as inferior. For example, thinking someone with broken English lacks intelligence, or thinking someone who doesn't have their specific narrow set of skills lacks intelligence, such as car mechanic skills, etc. Lacking insight into the behavior of others. This is especially apparent around children. as children don't have the capacity to respond to situations like an adult. Low intelligence. Individuals often expect children to behave like adults, or they project adult intentions onto children's behavior. I knew someone stupid, low IQ, and some things were. Belief in conspiracy theories. I read this article about our president being part of the Illuminati. It could be true. Bad driving. I don't mean reckless driving or inability to drive. I mean bad judgment of situations on the road. Oh look, all these cars are parked in the middle of the road. That stupid of them proceeds to overtake a long line of cars that were stopped at a red light. Impossibility to understand their own hypocrisy in some situations. Little participation in conversations about thought-provoking subjects. Reliance on the opinions of others to form their own. They were so sweet and kind though. And they had a really good job at the National Agricultural Research Center. They worked in labs running experiments all day for decades and were excellent at their job. They were comfortable sharing that their IQ was low, but despite it, they led a good life and had an impressive career. Although I definitely got very frustrated at them so many times to the point I can't stand them, and I'm glad I don't see them anymore. Your second point is really good. I think it's a good indication when someone sees people lined up or in traffic or waiting. A normal person thinks there must be a reason for this, and a stupid person thinks, look at all these idiots just sitting here. I'll go around them. It shows a lack of curiosity and a lack of theory of mind. Like other people have brains. 2. You think they are stopped because they want to be. I'm 29 and recently I've discovered how important nutrition is for your brain functions. Was eating junk food for a while very regularly, and it was obvious to me afterwards how stupid I was. Looking at my assignments, etc. There is such a difference. Food is actually so important for your brain. I remember watching a commentary video on avocado of all things. But it was pretty well researched and sourced. It was all about how his terrible diet was causing his frequent public breakdowns, tantrums, and went on to explain how a bad diet can completely ruin mood regulation and leave you with childlike tantrums and terrible mood swings. I've always had an alright diet, but after watching that I've been taking extra care